September 8th, 1944. Cromer train station, England. A rail worker, on his daily shift, notices three distinct streaks of white rising through the sky, eventually disappearing into the stratosphere. Hours later, an unaccounted-for object, faster than the speed of sound, hits London, killing 3, injuring 22. This is the first time the world witnessed Germany's new weapon, the V-2 rocket. 2 years prior, Germany started working on a liquid fuel-propelled explosive cache. This form of rocket greatly differed from those prior due to its form of fuel. Solid-fueled rockets were uncontrollable and faulty, while liquid-fueled ones were often more manageable, more reliable, and could stand the air for much longer.
The effective difference is quite significant. The solid rockets, once you ignite the solid rockets, they burn continuously and you're not able to control the rate of burning. You're not able to turn it off. It just continuously burns until all the fuel is used up. With the liquid rockets, the liquid fueled rockets, you have a lot more control because you have the ability to slow down the burn rate. You have the ability to turn off and then restart, and that has a great difference on the guidance ability, the guidance and control.
This shift was a significant break in aerodynamics as this was the first successful liquid-fueled rocket for its time. This allowed for the world to break past the Earth's ambience and experience space for the first time. The liquid-fueled rocket was first introduced in Germany in 1923 by the German researcher Hermann Oberth in his college dissertation, The Rocket into Interplanetary Space, which describes his revolutionary rocket design. Oberth's designs and ideas were initially rejected by the German military, but they were later accepted as a possible part of the German war machine. It was on the 3rd of October, 1942 that the first major success was achieved, using a 74% ethanol water mixture and liquid oxygen to power its combustion, and able to soar for up to 65 seconds and reach an altitude of 85 kilometers. This allowed the explosive payload to free fall towards the Earth and its ballistic trajectory. This rocket broke through the Earth's atmosphere and opened the heavens. And only 2 months after this success, on the 22nd of December, 1942, Adolf Hitler, the leader of the Third Reich, ordered for the mass production of rocket-propelled weaponry to add to the German war machine. After facing a Soviet counteroffensive on the Eastern Front, as well as its Italian allies getting pushed back through Africa, Hitler saw Germany's new weapon as a way to get the upper hand on the Allies. Little did Hitler know he had just begun mankind's further exploration into the immense fields of rocketry, and paved the way for space exploration. Although Nazi Germany only thought of these rockets as weapons, when the Allies later recovered these rockets after the war, other purposes were immediately envisioned. A year after Hitler gave his order, construction began. But just as an entire arsenal of weaponry was ready to be deployed, the Allies bombed the Peenemünde Army Research Center, where the development of the rocket was taking place. This killed many of the workers in the concentration camps who were forced to work on V-2 rockets. Afterwards, construction moved underground, specifically to Mittelwerk, a German factory built inside the Konstantin Mountain. Despite how revolutionary they were, V-2 rockets were built upon the backs of captured prisoners of war and victims of the Holocaust. These forced laborers were constrained to work under horrid conditions, leading to many of the victims of concentration and forced labor camps. The new V-2 rockets were much more effective than their predecessor, the V-1 manned flying bomb, because of their inability to be intercepted in midair.
The V-1 could be shot down, or because it had wings, a British fighter plane could sort of tip its wing over the water of the English Channel so that the thing simply went down into the English Channel. It also had a larger surface for anti-aircraft guns to hit, so that of the thousands of V-1s that the Germans fired, substantial proportion were shot down or diverted before hitting England. The V-2, this missile, could not be shot down. They may have tried, but it would have been an extraordinary coincidence if the anti-aircraft ever hit one, because these, of course, were going very much faster, and there was, to the best of my knowledge, no way for a British plane to shoot it down or intercept it in some. The way they could shoot down or simply tip aside the V-1. It didn't have wings. It was just simply a big, fat rocket going at very high speed, and therefore was not something that could be intercepted as at least a proportion of the V-1s were.
The German V-2 had caused much destruction and many casualties to the Allies, but the rockets had too small an effect and came much too late in the war. The Allies had already been pushing into German territory, and the Germans had overextended their resources. Therefore, the Third Reich quickly fell without many advances in the V-2 rockets. Near the end of World War II, as the Allies began to uncover and liberate German concentration camps, they also discovered the secrets of the German V-2 rockets, exposing the equipment and research that went into the weapon. Operation Backfire, which was conducted by the British, helped the Allies acquire more data on the weapon in the form of rocket sights, which led to the construction of new V-2 rockets by the Allies. In addition to this, the United States was able to take in many top German scientists working on the rockets as part of Operation Paperclip, an operation run by the Americans to uncover German rocket research, preferably before the Russians. One of these men was the chief rocket scientist, Wernher von Braun, who changed everything the world knows about space and rocket science during his time in the United States. The unearthing of the German rocket effort led to both the United States and the Soviet Union to begin their own separate rocketry programs. Many former German scientists such as Arthur Rudolph, the father of the Saturn rocket, and Hermann Oberth, the man who had come up with the idea of a liquid-fueled rocket in Germany, contributed considerably to the American rocket and space effort. Using captured German scientists and research as part of Operation Paperclip, the Americans were able to form their own space program in time, leading to the creation of NASA. The government-funded space program built around the ideas and expertise of Wernher von Braun and his fellow scientists. Prior to the introduction of German ideas and research into America, the U.S. had only the ideas and theories of Robert H. Goddard, who had come up with the same ideas as Hermann Oberth separately, and who had successfully fired the first liquid-fueled rocket ever. The United States were able to build on these ideas. The USSR also took in some German scientists and research under Operation Ossoviakim, which was the Russian counterpart of Operation Paperclip. German scientists were taken from the Russian-occupied zones of former Nazi Germany. Russian rocket science to this point was almost non-existent. The math and theories of the Russian Konstantin Tsiolkovsky were Russia's only form of rocket science. Tsiolkovsky had come up with a rocket design very similar to the designs of Oberth and Goddard. The Soviets were able to build up their own rocket program with the capture and uncovering of German technology, research, and scientists. They took in men such as Sergei Korolev, who would eventually put the first satellite in orbit, and bolstered their space expedition due to the German influence. With the addition of German research into the Soviet field of rocketry, they were able to compete with the American effort to reach the stars. The USSR was capable of sending a man on the moon, with the majority of the credit given to those past German scientists who revolutionized the V-2 and the largest breakthrough in space travel. The only reason the USSR was able to do this was because of the scientists who worked on the V-2 rocket. The research of the German scientists, and they also wanted to keep all German scientists quiet about their advancements in the field of rocketry. German scientists decided to flee from their own countries in order to escape the gruesome punishment they would have faced if they had stayed. Prior to both the US and Soviet efforts to uncover the secrets of the German rocket program, both countries were superpowers in their own right. They had no form of an organized rocket program. It all changed with the introduction of German scientists into the relatively new field of science that was rocketry. The Americans and the Soviets were able to build their own space and rocketry programs using the research of German scientists. Because of the clashing ideologies of both superpowers, both had the intention of outclassing or dominating the other. This rift led to the Cold War and the rise of the Iron Curtain shortly after the end of World War II. The United States and the Soviet Union used the research of German scientists to build their own space programs, motivating each other to push towards further advancements in rocket technology. This competition led to the formation of many of the advancements we have today, including the formation of NASA, or the National Aeronautics and Space Administration, with Wernher von Braun and his fellow scientists at the head of operations. As NASA expanded over the years, the US continued to enlarge their space empire. Due to V-2 technology, NASA grew to the point where they broke through the Earth's atmosphere and launched themselves into a voyage that was inconceivable to mankind just 30 years ago. Breaking the barrier and launching itself into where we are today, the V-2 rocket shaped the scientific progressions and advancements of space exploration that we have in the modern day today.